No. You want to stand here like maybe this is more solid. But hey, this we need sugar. Everybody's so sweet already.
Wow.
Okay.
This is really that's what is this really supposed to look at?
At the share.
And that's I'm seeing it myself.
Yeah, because whoever talks takes over.
But I'm not. I know.
It's fine.
It's okay. You're here.
Oh, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
We are ready.
Mute your phones, audio and video conference. Mute your phones. Thank you.
Okay. Let's try again. You can't tell the chair. Come on, Sri. Go ahead. You tell him to stay put. All right. On top, it's page Kuf Nun Hey. The second line. Ready? Try to proceed. Are you ready? So we just kind of discussed, presented the principle of Yidiyah and Bechira, that there is the divine knowledge of everything in the creation, every less detail. It is all present in knowledge. Presence in divine knowledge is what enables all the things to happen. We already discussed, contrary to our worldly perception, that things are in an environment of non-entity and nothingness. This is why the experience that it has is that it is functioning in nothing to the extent that the world perceives that it defines its environment. He feels free to choose totally unabridged, without any limit. This principle, the Mechira, the open field for the creation, is attesting, is pointing to the infinity of the creation, which is called Koil Yochel. We already explained the term Koil Yochel. This is the best we can conjure up in our terminology. He's able to do anything, but really it's short. Koil Yochel is an expression of infinity as it is in our experience. Because in our experience, everything is based on what are you able to do. He says, Koil Yochel, he's able to do anything. But really, on the divine level, the Yechoiles, Koil Yochel, is a very low perception. Implies that there is already an environment, there is already an entity with which he is dealing with. He is able to do anything he wants with this entity. But really, that entity does not exist. That entity is a divine creation. This Koil Yochel element is of such high and unperceivable action totally unrecognized. That in our perception, we are functioning in something that we can define as nothingness. Nothingness, because it's totally, there are absolutely no restrictions, no limits, and not only limits in terms of what you can do. There is one to make a step, you make a step as freely as you can act a step, not because you have to negotiate the area where you're stepping. There's nothing to negotiate with. You step wherever you want to step. This Koil Yochel is an allusion to this reality. He created everything, and he gave everything an open-ended presence of Koil Yochel. And thus, because he gave in the creation this open-ended sense of presence, that it exists within the Ekoil Yochel environment, this is why it has the principle of Bechira. It does not feel constricted at all that he is functioning within a certain environment. He is functioning completely according to his own discretion, totally, from the beginning to end. Now we come to a deeper union, which we really started, but now we are hopefully going to begin a little bit. The second line from the top of Kuf Nun Hey. The meaning of the life. Shem Shuhu B'Dio B'Chiro. Just as this is reflected in the aspect of B'Dio B'Chiro. What is reflected? It's reflected in Hashem's contribution, Hashem's effect on the creation is from a much higher level, such that there are no restrictions whatsoever. You're totally unaware of it, even though this is what provides for your being. That's why you have absolute free choice. Just as this is true regarding the principle of Bechira, knowledge, Hashem's knowledge, or Bechira, and in your choice of how you act, where you don't have to give credence to that knowledge at all. At the end of the second line, the same is who, this is really much sensitive opinion. The same meaning is by the principle, bitul, in the element of bitul. Bitul, we already started talking about bitul. Normally, we refer to bitul as part of Avodas Hashem. The person has to be battle himself to Hashem's will and follow through on what he is commanded to do. This bitul is true. It's a challenge to us. This bitul means subjugation. You obey what you are told to do without any question. But there is a much deeper aspect in the of bitul. Let's first identify the limits of this bitul that we have spoken about. Then we will go to the deep. The bitul that we have spoken about is a bitul. The bitul is on a secondary level. Now, but first a person is aware of himself, and then he is mevatel himself to Hashem's will. But his own presence is quite evident, it's quite experienced. It's real, except he submits himself to Hashem's will. So this bitul is on a secondary, this is not a primary usually. Now, but he has an existence of his own. But then he recognizes that the right thing for him to do is to be mevatel himself to Hashem, and therefore he is mevatel himself. But now we're talking in different bitul on a completely different level. In order to introduce this little different level, we introduce this bitul with the word idea. Just as Bechira we introduced with idea, idea means divine knowledge. The same is in from bitul, we introduce with idea. We already explained that the divine knowledge of the entire existence is what provides existence the right of being. As we have said many times, and you cannot repeat it enough times, there is no such thing as existence but for what the Rebbe provides. The Rebbe is not an intruder in the worldly existence, in the general existence, where you grab something from and makes it his. The existence is the definition of Hashem's knowledge. There is nothing but Hashem, and therefore, if there is anything that should be functioning on its own, it's because Hashem knows it. This idea is what provides it with a presence. I want to discuss this for a moment. The words seem to be too simple for us to really dig in and understand the implication. In our own experience, we have the action, and we've said many times, the action that we will do, and prior to our action, we project what we are going to do. We have it in our idea. And we already mentioned many times, the way we perceive the action in our idea, in our knowledge, is in a totally different level and different experience than the actual action itself. As we pointed out many times, anything that we project to do, I put it very, very simply. A carpenter, an expert carpenter, has a design of a table in his mind. And the design on his table, he knows exactly what it should be and how to make it be and so forth. He's an expert. Yet, when he actually produces that table, it can never be as perfect as that which he projects in his mind. Because his projection in his mind is, when you say a table has a board and four legs, these four legs and the board, any projection in his mind, it's one entity. It's not four things put together. It's a non-entity. This is the definition of a table as it is in his seichel. In the physical world, in our experience, the table it developed in stage-wise. The first stage is I need a board in front of me. That's what the table is about. And then I realized that the board is just not going to stay in place. So I need to find ways to make it stay in place. So I put a leg on and said one leg is not going to be enough. It's going to tip over this one. Two legs. Then I find out that it is four legs, the minimum that I need to keep the board in place. These four legs is a result of a worldly experience. It is not the way it is projected in one's mind that it has to have four legs. In one's mind, he has just a board in front of him. This is the way it is on the physical, in the world, on the worldly level. However, you have to understand that this is because you're projecting it in the worldly environment. But if you were to project it the way it is in your neshama, in the sense of value of a table to you as a living person, you don't have four legs. You just have one thing that serves you in whatever way you need. You need a safer, you have a place to put it down. You need a cup. It's completely different. It's not. There is no provision. There is no support for the object, for the supporting board that it should be able to stay in place. It stays in place because I want it to stay in place. That's the way it is projected in the original knowledge. This is how it is known in the divine knowledge. This is how the whole world is known in the divine knowledge. Everything that Hashem, that comes out in the world, has been known in, what's going on?
Put your phone on mute, please.
Move.
This is feedback from this.
Or the video. I don't know.
No, now it stopped. Sorry.
Okay, no harm. We must create a whole world. A whole world means that there are many different parts to it and many interactions between these, among these entities. These interactions are the initial projection of what the world should be. It's not an afterthought. Because something is missing, so I have to add this. We go back to the beginning of creation, the way it's described in Bereshit. It starts off with Tache Ha'oretz Desha. Let the earth sprout vegetation. This in that the earth should sprout vegetation is just what's called to complete the creation of the earth itself. Not because there are animals who need to eat the vegetation. The earth is not complete if the earth is not really alive and produces with the vegetation. And what kind of vegetation does it produce? It produces vegetation that can replenish itself. This in that Mazriya Zera is a statement. It reveals what kind of earth is this. The earth produces the earth has an infinite resource. It's a living thing, not as it appears just a lump of physical entity. It has divine life in it, and therefore everything that it produces has divine quality to it. That's why Asa Mazriya Zera, the grass also produces seed that you can be planted and so forth. This is the divine perception of what the world is. To us, each one of these things is a novel discovery. Oh, there is seed in the tree and seed in the product. From the creator's perspective, this is what an entity is. Everything that's created has a divine quality to it, which means it already has the infinite quality to it. Because everything has an Elokee quality to it. The fact that everything has. What shall I do?
So mute. Someone needs to mute.
Okay, so it's muted.
I know. Please mute your phone.
What does this have to do with Biddle?
This has to be Bitul to explain what do we mean by Bitul mitzat shir Kermediak. In the world also there is Bitul. But it's a completely different concept of Bitul.
The Bitul mitzad shir Kermediak is different.
Yeah, Bitul mitzat shir Kermediak is completely different. This is what I'm trying to shoot the whole time, over and over and over again. In the world, everything is known on a secondary level. There's a material world. Oh, there's also Bitul. Okay, there's also Bitul. But the world, a material world, is a material world. We don't realize in world, in our experience in the world as much as we experience, we don't realize that the whole material world is a highest key that is supplied to the world. This highest key is accepted by the world only by the quality of Bitul. As we already discussed, a few times back, air is one of the most primary necessities of human of survival in the world. Air. There's air, water, and food. Air is the first. That without air, nothing can survive. Air. In order for the air to give benefit to the human being or to an animal, how it has to be taken internally. It has to breathe it in. The way the Rebbe created this phenomenon of air, breathing in air, is a phenomenon. You have to take the air into your lungs. But you don't really have to take the air in. The air pushes itself into your nostrils. What's the difference? Whether you have to take the air in or it pushes itself into your nostrils. If you have to take the air in, then there's a conscious awareness. You could be without the air, could be with the air, which means you could be lifeless or with life. That kind of experience completely negates this phenomenon of life. Life is something which comes from the source of life without effort. It's given in life. If you have to draw it, that's not real life. You can feed yourself food, But air does not come in that fashion. Air is part of life itself. Like we explained the other day, air, the way we actually take air in, the air is all around us. And the air that's around us on its own forces itself into our nostrils. And if we should become aware of the fact that we have to draw air, and that becomes a tortuous type of life. This is the principle, the necessity of Bitul in the creation. If the creation, the creature in the creation, should sense itself as a mitzvah, and now it has to submit to the Creator and get life, then that life is not called life. Because then that means that you really want to be around the mitzvahs, but you're forced never to accept the Creator's contribution, otherwise you won't live. It's a two separate entities. Kind of goes against your own choice, but you have to accept it, never. The real experience of the creation that the Creator put into the world and that we are getting is that there is no effort on our part to facilitate the production, the life element. It is all given, just the life itself and how it enters into us. It's entirely the Mebash's effort and giving. That is real life. The morsel for this is air, which is only a morsel, but it's a proper morsel to reflect just that this is something which is given to you effortlessly. If it becomes effortless, if it requires effort, then you lose the phenomenon of real life. This is where Beetle comes in. Beetle is a necessity for a human being to be a full-fledged human being. Let's take a step deeper. A human being living in this world. And he does not recognize that there is a meaning and purpose in his being in this world. He is in vast nothingness. As a human being, an intelligent human being, it's a total loss. Where am I? What is it about? 1 minute is like the other minute. There is absolutely no significance in all that, in all my experiences. Therefore, in order that life to a human being will be a real life, he has to have the sense that really life that you have is not due to your effort to gain life. You are being supported at a higher level than being in the world. Because in the world, you do need constant support, constant sustenance. You can't stand on the ground without support, without effort to stand. You can't do anything in the world without effort on your part. Not even breathing really, except that in order that there should be a real creation here, the Rebbe has put a divine element in the creation itself. And this divine element expresses itself in many ways. First is in life itself. That the necessity of life, which is air, comes to him effortlessly. This is the first statement to tell the human being, you should know that you have a creator who creates and supports you. This is how physical life comes to you, without any effort on your part. From this perch, from this experience that physical life comes effortlessly, this opens up the perception in a person that really the whole existence of the world is something which comes in my life. And the significance of my life is also coming in my life. Who defined the difference? Who defines the difference between a human being and an animal? Is that defined as a result of their competition among themselves? It is the creator's identity to begin with, that the animal and human being are not the same creature. To the extent that the animal who lacks intelligence, an animal does not make this human being is much smarter than I, he's more boy, doesn't have any of that. the animal stands in awe and respect of the human being. So it's important. The Rebbe put a fear in the animal, a certain sense of submission to the human being, which is part of the creation of the world. This is a direct allusion, a direct effect of her divine presence in the world. There's nothing in the world per se that compels that the animal should be submissive to the human being. On the contrary, the animal is much stronger than the human being. And really, it finds its own way around. It feeds itself and finds its own resources. And yet, it has full submission to the human being. This is the divine presence in the world itself. Now, having said that, which is quite an obvious experience, the question is, what kind of awareness is it that we have that there is a divine presence in the world? What does it mean we know that? Let me define this question. Again, with very simple illustration of the point. I'm aware that there's a table over here. This awareness that there's a table over here is not only that it's a table. I'm aware of two things. The house could be with and without a table and with a table. So a table is really a real addition to the awareness of the room. It's not part and parcel of knowing of the house. There's a room. In the room, there's also a table. The room could be without a table also. Now, the submission that the animal has to the human being. What kind of experience is that? And the human being's part and the animal's part. Does the animal find that out after he has hit over the head? Or is it something which is part of the reality of his experience in the world? It is completely part of the reality itself. Without ever confronting the human being, without ever being hit or screamed at. What is the significance of this submission? It's mind-boggling what's going on in the world. This submission is an attestation. It shows that even the animal senses that there is more to the world than meets the eye. There's something much greater happening over here than the physically identifiable entities. And that greater thing is of such caliber that even the animal stands in respect and awe of it. Not because it's intelligent to identify it, but he stands in awe of it. This is something higher, more than is in my world. It's really a phenomenal thing. Everybody experiences this from day one. A small child can lead a herd of animals and they will obey him to the T. Why? Because he had a stick in his hand. Because there's something in this little child that is superior to all the animals, and the animals stand in respect of it. This is part of the creation of the world. This is how the Rebbe created the world. Yes, he created the world. It should be a worldly world, but he, like we said the other day, it's a worldly world, but it's not devoid of the effect of its creator. It's still a divinely created world.
So on one hand, we're saying that we need our own effort in the world. On the other hand, we're saying that the air is given to us. So
What was your question?
Repeat your question. Okay, the question is like this. On one hand, we say that we are obligated to do our own thing. We have to do our own effort. We have to learn and daven and know what's right and what's wrong and so forth. We have to be. There's a whole requirement on part of the human being to know what his place in the world. On the other hand, we say it's all forced into him, like air is being forced into him, like life. So the truth is, there's no contradiction at all. Let me explain. The life element is completely, and step back, forget about life, just for a moment. We always point out that the beginning of intelligence, the Rambam says, the beginning of intelligence is called Chokhmah. Beginning of all of our awareness of anything that we say, there is things, there's a world, there's a whole, there are many things in the world. The whole phenomenon, there is things, is identified to us by our koyach called Chokhmah. This koyach HaChokhmah, it's part of the koyach of Seichel. But it's unique among all the other koyches of Seichel. All koyches of Seichel come to you after a process of identifying them, except for Chokhmah. Chokhmah is compared to sight. Even as sight comes to you effortlessly. You're not aware that you see something. It's being shown to you completely without any effort on your part. You don't even know how come you see it. You cannot not see it. The same is in the awareness of level of Chokhmah. This Chokhmah is the beginning of all of the entire human process of all these koyches, Chokhmah, Bina, Das, and then Midas and so forth. As we mentioned the other day, the reason I can pick this up without pre-thought and moving from place to place is because my Chokhmah recognizes this thing could be here, could be here. I'm not discovering these different positions as I'm moving it. Why am I aware that this could be? Because sight identifies the environment, and I know that things can be any place here. Before I even contemplate or even have the idea of moving things, the fact that there is possibility of it is known way before that. This is called Chokhmah. The Chokhmah is what presents the world to the human being with all its versatility. You know what's versatility? With all the different possibilities, all the differences. up, down, right and left, this is all known instantaneously. It's not discovered, it's, this is how the world is presented to human beings. This is the knowledge at the level of Chokhmah. And the proper moshel, so to demonstrate to us the experience of Chokhmah is called the Iya, sight. When we see something moving from here to here, we don't question, how is it possible? It was here, now it's here. How is it possible? The answer is, when it was here and everywhere else. All the places that you can move it to, it was there at the time when you first recognized it. How come? The reason it was everywhere is because this entire existence is a divine perception. It's not a worldly presence, it's a divine provision. And the Rebbeinu knows all the possibilities in the world at the inception level. Let me explain the word inception level. Inception level is much higher than practical level. Inception is, what did I mean when I created the world? Before the world came into being. The world that's created has limits. It's this way or that way. But when the world is first perceived, there's no limits. That's the world in which everything functions. The fact that we recognize limits and so forth, that's our experience. But Masad the Creator, the world remains at the divine level.
So what's the answer?
What?
What's the answer?
Answer to what?
On one hand, we're saying that we have to do the effort. On the other hand, we're saying it's given to us.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now we come into this thinking. The principle of doing the effort versus what's given to us. What's given to us is, as we said before, it's on the divine level. So at the Meibush, everything is given. But then the Meibush said, "Nasa Odom b'tzalmeinu kidmusei." I want to make a human being. What's the point of the human being? The human being, he will rule he will identify all the entities in the world individually. He will know the difference between a fish and a horse. From the divine perspective, there's no difference. All you're created, but they live in the environment, and the human being is who identifies them. All the creatures, every creature in its own place. This is where the effort comes in. We took up, you take something to eat. Okay, thank God for this food. No, that's not good. Everything has to be identified individually. This is not because the Rebbe had to have a special effort to create Priho Eitz and Priho Adom. This is to identify from your perspective what you're getting. Because that is the divine intent that the human being, That's what American people saying. The human being will identify everything in the world precisely for what it is. Within the worldly context. This is what the human being is about. Because the human being has that intelligence to identify things in their rightful place, this is why he was given the right to rule the world. How can you give rulership, power to an entity that does not know the difference between a horse and a human being? Rulership power is justified for that entity that appreciates the difference between the various things. It's interesting. The Pasuk says, "Let us make man." So American was saying, in our form, in our likeness. And our likeness means that he will have intelligence to identify everything the way I know it. And therefore, he will be given the right to rule the fish and the fowl and the animals.
Kid Musena, yeah.
Kid Musena.
So he's identifying it on the godly level.
That's right. But he's identifying on the godly level as it appears in the world. This is the roof of the human being. While in the world, he sees the godly element that everything represents. This is why it has to be an effort. He has to identify it.
And practically speaking, where does he know what's the line? Where's my effort? Where is God's given gift?
The first bracha from Birchas HaShachar is Pakeach Ivrim. Pakeach Ivrim. What is Pakeach?
The first bracha is Anos L'Sach V'Vino, no?
This is Asech V'Vino. This is Asech V'Vino. And then you can identify all the different things. And what is he identify? Pakeach Ivrim, Mater Asurim. Now Pakeach Ivrim, I open my eyes, I automatically see everything. Where's Pakeach Ivrim? I was never blind. My eyes were closed, but that doesn't mean I was blind. This is where the human intelligence comes in. This is Asech V'Vino. So the human side, his intelligence, he recognizes that the fact that I could see, even though it's light, I can see, is a divine reality. As we know from the beginning, that originally the world was created and was cheshech, and then the Rebbe brought light. And we spoke about it many times. Why did it start with darkness and then Hashem brought light? The reason for this process is that world per se, the full definition of world is, without Atma is dark. The fact that there is light, you could see, this is the divine effect on the world. What's the difference? The world is a physical entity, and the only way for you to know anything in the world is by touch. But the physicality of it, that affects you. Sight is not a physical experience. That level of experience of sight is a divine, because it's a divine creation. To be able to see and to know something clearly at a distance It's a divine gift. Only the Rebbe can know things away from himself. So the Rebbe gave the world a divine effect.
So now it's 9 o'clock, Rebbe.
Huh?
Now it's 9 o'clock.
9?
9 o'clock. Now
9
it's
o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Oh, yeah. So that means we have to. Okay. So finish it. So yes, indeed, it is within our choice and within our effort. But what are we working with? We are not working in a physical world. Working in a world that has been impressed by the divine presence. Okay, so
We need to tie this back into
Excuse
Tzir
me?
Koma.
Whoever
We
wants
need
to
to
leave.
tie this back into Tzir Koma Da'ak. That's we started off with secondary bittul.
The biddle of Tzir Koma Da'ak.
Tzir Koma Da'ak is that's right. The Tzir Koma Da'ak is the effect of the oil Yisoy. The reason Tzir Koma Da'ak is so limitless is because it actually represents the oil Yisoy that provides it with the mitzvahs. That's why Tzir Koma Da'ak is versatile, it's limitless. Because it's all
So the foundation for this infinite of
Is there any-
possibilities isn't Tzir Koma Da'ak already.
no, Tzir Koma Da'ak is already the first definition of towards world. The real source is Ein Sof. But in order for that Ein Sof to be translated on the world, that becomes Tzir Koma Da'ak. Just like a human being. A human being, you know, he has a neshama, he has rotzen and oinach. But in order for him to function in the world, he has to come to chacham. A limited human quality. Then he can function. Otherwise, he sees the younger are higher than one. So here, Koma Da'ak is the beginning of a worldly definition of things, of existence. Oil Yisof at the worldly level.
And because of that, it has the complete bittul to Ein Sof.
That's right, Oil Yisof.
Was explained also in the beginning of the shir about the Kol Yochel. That we would say that there needs to be an entity and is able to do.
We explained Kol Yochel, how this is pertinent to talk about Mad Meibus. Kol Yochel, we call Kol Yochel is within our worldly capabilities. Kol Yochel, what is able to do? Everything that we can do in the world, he can do. That's not the meaning of Kol Yochel. Kol Yochel, Mad Meibus means that everything that there is to be is already contained within him.
For instance,
What?
for instance,
Let me explain. Every person, he needs food. So you go and satisfy his need for food. A person needs a lodging house and needs a house. Therefore, it supplies his home. These needs and the supply for these needs It's identified as they come. He's hungry, so no, he needs to eat. He's cold, so he has to cover himself. These finding out in this fashion is finding out things on the worldly level. But the Rebbe created a human being. He created a human being as a human being should be. Which means, yes, indeed, he should require food, he should require lodging, he should require everything. But not as an afterthought, because he's cold, you have to cover him up. But because he encompasses, he represents the entire existence of the world. Because he represents the existence of the world, therefore all variations of world are represented in this human being.
Why is this called Kol Yochel?
So I explain that Kol Yochel does not mean Kol Yochel, after you have a challenge, he's able to solve the problem. Kol Yochel means in his Yicholos there is everything already.
In Hashem's Yicholos or in the human being's Yicholos?
In Hashem's Yicholos. Kol Yochel, Hashem's Yicholos, there is everything. Everything that will ever be required for any significance in the world is already present.
Like we say, in our term, we would say it's not reactive.
That's right.
It's proactive.
What does it mean dynamic? You always use the word dynamic. Can you define that in your terms? What do you mean by that?
See this?
To remain
If I let it go, what happens?
press 1.
It'll fall. What makes it fall?
It goes where it belongs.
What?
It goes where it belongs. It goes where it belongs.
Okay. So then it goes and then where it belongs, that's called dynamic. It's part of the reality itself.
The force. The force of its going.
It's not a force. It's what belongs is not a force. It goes where it belongs. A force is when they're two separate things.
So it's dynamic.
Yeah, that's dynamic.
Okay.
When you meet a person, you say Shalom Aleichem. You have to contemplate, you say Shalom Aleichem.
It's what you call it a reality.
Yeah.